Hello? Okay. I'd like to invite my panelists to join me on stage. Jasmine, Ungku, Liza, Roshni, come join me. How's everyone doing this morning? Are you awake? Coming up. Okay, I hope a lot of you men stay in this room. I'd like to just set the tone that this isn't about feminism or fulfilling a quota for those of you who are thinking, not another woman empowerment panel, which I know some of you are thinking that. So this is about real financial ROI and economic gains that businesses in tech can stand to gain by having more gender inclusion. So I have here with me today 3 outstanding women who are shining examples of what women in leadership in technology can achieve and why gender diversity in tech is so important. I'll pass it on to the panelists to introduce yourselves. Jasmine?
Assalamu alaikum, very good morning, and to those who are here from other countries, welcome to Malaysia. I'm sure you have been here 2 days, having the hospitality and the climate. So I'm Jasmine, I head the legal and corporate affairs team of Microsoft Malaysia in emerging markets, advising governments on policies on emerging technology. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Roshni and I'm the CEO and founder of a media company called Tickled Media. Tickled Media is the largest woman publisher across Southeast Asia. So we're a VC-backed company. We've been invested in by Vertex Ventures, which is the early stage investment arm of Temasek Holding, which is Singapore's sovereign wealth fund. So we've raised about $11 million. We have about 160 people across 6 different markets. And I care a lot about women, gender diversity issues, as well as investment in women. So besides running my company, I also have a woman-focused community called Female Founders, which we set it up 3 years ago with the aim of trying to increase VC funding to women startups and also create more scalable women startups so that they can be ready for VC funding.
Thank you, Jess. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Ungku Lisa. I'm the Chief Operating of Boost Malaysia. I started my I started my career in finance with the Axiata Group, and then I got the opportunity to then shift the career into the business-like, which is what I'm doing now with Axiata Digital, and now one of the leading e-wallet in Malaysia.
Okay, great. So as we dive in, I wanted to share some very real statistics that Boston Consulting Group report shared recently. So for women founders who are seeking early stage capital, the reports have shown that they raise significantly less than their male counterparts, $1 million less in average. However, women-led businesses return higher revenue, almost twice to the dollar than male-led businesses. If you have more women on the board of directors, businesses have realized 42% increase in sales and even a 66% higher success rate of turning invested capital into profit than male-founded businesses. These are real statistics. However, despite these numerous reports, statistics, heightened level of awareness that I think we all see today, the gender pay gap, the gender investment gap, other disparities still exist today. What are your thoughts on why that is? Roshni, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I always say that as VCs and investors, so I've invested in 22 different companies, early stage investments, and I say that the most overlooked opportunity or the billion-dollar unicorn waiting for investment is the woman. So if you are a VC, if you're an angel investor and you want to make good return on investment, invest in women founders. We make good money. We try harder because we have to. The women who end up running businesses, we've gone through so much of hurdles to reach that stage, and we've given up so much and sacrificed so much that we're fighters. So our DNA are winners. So if a woman comes to you and she's running a business, don't be so skeptical. Look at it, because you're probably going to get great financial gains from it. But the fact is that, from 2013 to 2017, TechCrunch has done a study on it, and less than 10% of funding in this last 5 years have gone to a company with at least one woman founder on board. In Southeast Asia, there are less than 10 of us women who have raised more than 10 million US in funding. That's very scary and very dismal.
Just
sure.
if I may,
Please,
right? Yeah, so it's unfortunate to hear the statistics, but it is what it is. Maybe we want to vet a bit on the statistics as well. Consultants, I assume?
Yeah,
Yes?
of course,
Okay.
of course, consultant.
All right, okay. Somehow, whilst we hear and see how number of women participating in the workforce is increasing, right? Even year on year, or even from 10 years ago, how women grew 4.5% year on year as opposed to men 2% on average. Yet the number of women contributing to the workforce is about 50 to 55%, as opposed to men that is contributing about 80%. Right? That's factual number one that I wanted to share. On a different level of statistics, you hear about, to your point as well, how women actually deliver higher revenue, twice as much into a dollar contributor onto the capital invested, makes more effective top management. I'm sure you guys have read through a couple of reports as well. Women are also better at finance, right? And hence why we can give more returns, more profitability, and revenue. Just don't say that to my husband, because I don't manage his finances well, and that's on purpose. And we actually, there's a recent research from MIT that says that women actually make a team smarter as well. Right, so while we have these statistics, all positive statistics, but it's not showing somehow in terms of results. And going back to your question, I think I would like to boil it down to, and I'm jumping a gun a bit here, it's all about evolution, right? It's about, it has a lot to do with how the world has been in the past, the expectation of women, the mentality or the concept that women should be staying or doing certain things, right? I think that we need to overcome. Similar to how tech evolution is. Let's say yesterday, one of the presenters was saying in the past where we needed 10 years, at least 10 to 20 years to actually raise about 1 billion. But now, as it evolves, right, to hit 1 billion valuation only takes about 3 years or even less. That's tech, that's business evolution. Takes about 10 to 3 years over a decade, for example. This is human we're talking about. This is people. This is behavior. So that's a lot to do with how the mindset and the behavior needs to change, I believe, which I think we will touch more later, right, in the discussion.
So regardless of the statistics and what actual backing, financial backing is showing us, changing your mindset because of the cultural upbringing and what we've been conditioned to takes a lot longer to sort of adapt.
A lot of times we don't even realize that we have this conditioning. So I was just sharing with someone earlier, I said that sometimes the words we use, right? So, oh, she's such a ball buster. What does that even mean? So why do we use terms like this? Or why do we use, the best man for the job? Why? So these are just innocuous statements that we constantly use without realizing the messages, the subliminal message that we're sending out. So I think that's something that we have to be aware of.
Yeah, so I think it just starts with awareness. Do I think that way? And reel it from there. Jasmine?
It's interesting that whilst I come from a 40-year-old startup, present in 100 over countries, 192 countries with 300,000 employees.
Probably not a startup anymore.
40 years old. We reinvented ourselves with Satya. From Bill Gates to Satya, we definitely reinvented ourselves. The biggest shift we saw under the leadership of Satya is the cultural shift. Diversity and inclusion is good business to begin with, right? Do we look at women and say, I'm giving this to you to fill up the quota, or I do think you are the best person for the job. We do not, it's not a bolt-on idea. The idea of having a woman on board or having her as part of the team, but the largest emerging economy are women, right?
It's good business sense.
Absolutely. The largest emerging economy are women. And if you are not investing in women, and if you are not making allowing them to make decisions, you are losing out on this large population. So to me, if today we are still discussing how to get them onto the board, I know recently even boards are making it to boards, but not women, right? There was a report that came out late last year that said even boards can now become members of the board, but not women. So what is wrong with this statement, right? So as an emerging, Microsoft, we are committed to diversity and inclusion. Yes. We continue to advocate women in technology, women in STEM, but we also realize, as Liza had pointed out, that it is about a cultural shift. It is about not making it as a bolt-on idea, but just making it the DNA of the company, or DNA of the organization. That would be what, this is what we practice.
It has to be at the foundation and the roots of a company to make it more inclusive as a culture overall. So Roshni, you've been pretty vocal about being a young tech female founder at the age of 25 when you started Tickled Media, the sort of challenges you faced because you weren't taken seriously. And this wasn't an age issue. This was very much the conscious and unconscious biasness you faced of being a female founder. So maybe you can share more about that.
The amount of times where people would say, "Where's your boss? What time is your boss coming for the meeting?" It was pretty ridiculous. So I remember I went to meet a big media agency, and I had the CEO of a huge Russian media company join me for the meeting. And she had her personal assistant, who was like a 23-year-old tall white guy. And the two of us women, and so she was in her late 40s, I was in my mid-20s, and this guy. And we're having coffee with these two media agency owners. And they refused to look at us in our eyes. And so they just directed all of the questions to the guy. And he was like her secretary or her personal assistant. And, at the end of it, then we exchanged name cards and everything. And then he was like, "Oh, so you're really the CEO?" I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "And she's really the CEO?" And I was like, "Yes, get over it." And so it was just these really odd experiences that I've had running a business. And of course, I went in for a VC meeting very early on. This was in my first fundraise, and the guy says, "Oh, what happens when you get married and when you have kids? Will your husband still let you work?" And I was like, "Sorry, he doesn't have a choice in this matter. If I want to work, I'll still continue working." And I said, "And listen, I'm running the largest parenting website and baby portal. If I become a mom, it's good business for us. So let's hope I get pregnant." So you get all of these biased statements, and of course, in terms of so people not taking you seriously, you get some forms of sexual harassment as well, so it's not unheard of. Unfortunately, I've been the recipient of some of these things, and so, except that in my personality, I'm so assertive, so if someone tried to harass me, I harass them back, right? I was like, "You slap my butt, I slap yours." But not every woman's going to be like that, and it just makes it a very uncomfortable situation for everyone.
What would you suggest for a lot of women who are encountering these sort of hurdles and challenges? Because I think the number of women founders coming up now at young ages.
So I would definitely recommend that women, for us women, we just need to learn how to be more assertive. Being assertive is not a bad thing. I know that we grew up and our parents would tell us, hey, that's, if you are like that, you're never going to get married, no guy's going to like you. What is your mother-in-law going to say, right? We grow up in the Asian culture where they expect us women to be demure, but it's okay to not be demure. It's okay to stand up there and fight for your own rights. You don't have to be scared about it. And I think that for a lot of men as well, look at her, not as a conquest, right? This woman, she could be your sister, she could be your mother, she could be your daughter. Treat her with respect. Treat her with the kind of respect you would want your own daughter to be treated with.
No, that's great advice. Ungku, Liza, and Jasmine, two powerful women in your positions, you must have encountered many challenges to get to where you are. Maybe you can share more on that, and how did you overcome that?
Yes, please, Doctor.
Okay. I have seen challenges as an opportunity to prove myself. Every time someone has said you can't do something, I would have gone out. I would have gone out and say, I love a challenge. But one of the things that I learned prior to my tech journey, I come from the UN, and I used to serve in the office of Secretary General Kofi Annan. It was fascinating to see how he dealt with dictators. And that's how you deal with people. How do you win them over, right? I'm not calling men are dictators, but at home, we do see these dictator tendencies. In corporate settings, we do see sometimes these dictator settings and tendencies. My experience has been to stand up to them respectfully and make a stand and do not waver. And that has been a learning, right? It is okay to your point, to be assertive, but have content. Do your homework, have all your data, and go out and make your point. And if you disagree with the majority, it is okay. You don't have to be a populist. We have a tendency to be populists, to be accepted. And to be different is not something that we are able to go out and make a stand. So experience has taught me that making a stand and believing in what you do and going out to prove yourself, and it does not come easy. It's a lot of hard work. We make mistakes, but it's okay, right? You go on and you learn from your mistake. It is not a perfect ride, but having a stand and going out, dealing with this problem and not running away and not giving up would give you that credibility. That has been my learning.
Okay. Question was challenges and how to overcome it, right? So maybe we won't concentrate on the challenges because I think everyone has their own problems. Would like to share how can you overcome it, and maybe just putting it into a corporate perspective. For example, if there's an audience here working in the corporate world, even now a startup, you have more controls when you are in a startup, right? You are your own boss. Right? But for let's say corporate or any other organization, I think how you overcome it, number one, you have to have a mentor, right? You have to have a mentor. You've got to have someone that you bounce ideas with. And for me personally, I'm lucky enough, Kyril has been my mentor in Axiata. Thank you, Kyril. That means higher rise for me as well. Back in IBM, I've got my mentor as well. So mentor, number one. Number two, supportive colleagues, right? Regardless, men, women, the people that you work with would help to support your cause as well. And finally, the last, but definitely not the least, is your family support, right? If you are married, then it will be your spouse. If you're not, your boyfriend or even your family members. So with all these three, I think what it translates into is number one, opportunity. You've got to have opportunity for you to shine. Number two, openness in an organization. Forget about whether you're wearing pants or I'm wearing skirt. Just being open about the capabilities and how one can deliver the results. And the final one, touching on the last point just now, is partnership. right? Partnership with your spouse, partnership with your boyfriend, because we're talking about women here. You've got to have that person understanding that the world is changing. Whether they like it or not, you or that person would need to have the fair, equal contribution because of the, for example, standard of living, right? So change that, have their support, then you balance out between you trying to become a mother, a corporate lady at the same time, and whatever that doesn't limit to who you are as women, I think. So yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to go to some of the questions. We've got quite a number of questions. I'm going to go to one from Skeptic, who asked, why do we even need to talk about diversity? As long as we employ meritocracy, the best will thrive. Now, in terms of meritocracy, I think the concept of meritocracy is very novel. But in a lot of those, it means who you know, who are good at what they do, and your circles normally in the tech industry are very male-dominated. So if you keep focusing on who you know in the tech industry, who you know how well they can do their job, I feel that that may have disadvantages as well in terms of diversity. So maybe I can, who would like to answer this?
Yeah, so the biggest problem here is that, so we think that we're being meritocratic, right? But we have a lot of these biases which we don't even realize that we have or that exist. There's been so many studies that have shown that when hiring managers look at two resumes and they see a woman and they see a male, they start putting typical stereotypes on the woman's resume, and they expect the men to be the same exact resume, and a woman would be considered too soft-spoken in her resume, etc. So they'll come up with a lot of different conclusions based on the same resume just because of the fact that this is a woman's resume and this is a man's resume, and this is without even meeting them, right? But there's been a lot of FMCG companies now that actually blank out the names of the respondents or anything that would reveal the gender of the respondents, and they realized that suddenly they were picking out a lot more women resumes for the HR interviews versus the male resumes. So the fact is that we have a lot of these unconscious bias which we don't even know exist. So we think that we're being meritocratic, but a lot of times we're not really being meritocratic. So I think we have to just put in lots of measures in place. And I do believe in meritocracy, and I do believe that it should be the best man or woman for the job. But like if you talk to a lot of people, they'll say, oh, HR is a woman's role. HR should always be done by women. Men would be bad at HR. Why do we say such things? So why do we already have preconceived notions that engineers are men and not women, and HR are women and not men, and finance can be women but not men, but CFO should be men? So my main thing is that remove all of those bias and start looking at data. So as a company, what we do is we look at the Myers-Briggs personality score of a person generally before we start hiring and interviewing them for jobs. So we know that specific jobs have, certain types of personalities do better in specific types of jobs. So for example, I am ENTP, which means that I'm a much more creative type person and I'm suited for entrepreneurship, but I'm terrible as a COO. So when I'm looking for a COO, I look for a type of personality that's very good at operating. So I don't look at what your gender is. I look at what type of personality I need for the different type of roles.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's most important. It's unconscious biasness that a lot of us face as to why meritocracy doesn't work to a certain degree, and you have to actually be gender aware and then look at their capabilities and so on. Okay, so another question is, the notion of women's rights have been highly corrupted. It's not about women being better, neither is it about entitlement. It's about inclusion, a level playing field for both men and women. How do you ensure you advocate rewarding women based on meritocracy, not because they're women? And I think this is something we've touched on a little bit here and there, but we could probably expand on. Jasmine?
So, why are we still talking women's rights today? Because of what Jesrina set out right at the beginning, there are gaps. We would not be debating rights today if we are all equal, right? The pay is where we start. Today, Silicon Valley acknowledges the fact that we do not pay equally in tech. They don't even pay equally in tennis games, right? Men get paid more than women, they play as hard. So the merit is non-negotiable. what we are saying is remove the unconscious bias, treat equally, right? But do we today even do that at the most fundamental organization, even as a family? Do we stereotype boys and girls? Do we set different expectations? As a manager, I have higher expectation of my directs who are women. I am more tolerant of a man with, oh, he's a boy. It's okay. But I would have higher standards. How many women CIOs would today go out and hire women CIOs, women IT leads, right? The challenge is that there is definitely unconscious bias, but there is also our gravitation towards all things that is male and female. Like you said, it's not what is best for the role, but we would go out and say, hey, engineers, if I'm going to put, I actually had someone who asked me, I just want male engineers because they would not be, a woman would not be able to do this. Or it would be too tough because it has got too much of maths in it. And we do not, so when Microsoft, a bunch of women in Microsoft started Gorgeous Geeks, people gave us this, are you nuts? Why would you want to set up Gorgeous Geeks? Because we wanted to make sure that women can be great geeks. But it has to be discussed. It has to be openly discussed. But we need to first acknowledge there is a disparity. If we do not acknowledge, we will not address it. So,
I think what would be great to share is for each of you, what are you driving in your organizations to champion this? You know, I mean, a lot of us say that there's fatigue in talking about it, but it's implementing real change. And as role models, I believe you're all driving initiatives in Microsoft. There's DG Girls, TechFem, Youth Sparks. You've started the Female Founders Network to support over 2,000 women. I think it'd be great to share what you're doing that may inspire the audience to know what they could potentially implement and drive in their organizations.
okay, let me start. So diversity, inclusion, non-negotiable, but there is an area that I advocate passionately, and Microsoft has given me the platform. Women with disability. This is an area that we go out to advocate today because women with disability get even further eroded and they do not get included. So we look at providing employment, providing them with technology and making sure that they would be able to be employed or start their own business. So this is an area that we go out, not only women in STEM, but women with disability in STEM and women with disability in technology. There's a huge area, and we invite corporations and other organizations to work with Microsoft to be able to provide employment and training for women with disability. So this is something that we are very committed to.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, I think more organizations need to look at, it's not just about women, but women with disabilities have it even harder to be able to progress up. Yes, continue.
So I'm going to look at it from two fronts. So one is my family unit. So I'm a mom, and I have quite a lot of advice for parents out there. So I'm not sure how many parents we have in the audience. Could you guys show me through a show of hands? Great, okay, a substantial amount of parents. So there's a few things that you can do. So the first thing is that if you have daughters, have them watch very empowering movies about women who are at the center of attention. So for example, we love watching Dora the Explorer at home. We love watching Doc McStuffin, which is a cartoon about a little girl who pretends to be a doctor and heals all of her toys. And her role model is her mom, who is an African-American doctor, and her dad, who is a stay-at-home dad. So it breaks a lot of gender stereotypes, right? So have them watch positive cartoons like that. Lego, so don't have girls' toys and boys' toys. Make sure that you have toys that can be used by both sexes. You know, my daughter, her room is all dinosaurs, but at the same time, she loves her Hello Kitty, and I'm fine with it as well. If you have a son, make sure he has a kitchen set at home. Make sure he has Barbie dolls as well, and not just toy trucks and stuff like that. So make sure you don't buy all these toys and stuff like that are specifically for girls or boys, and have them both use each other's toys. When it comes to in the organization, we've done quite a lot of things. So first of all, we recognize the fact that a lot of times women who are in their late 20s to 30s are going to take a little bit of a career break to have kids, and that's okay. So that's something that we celebrate as a company, and we offer sabbaticals. So you can take a 6 months, 1 year off, and then come back at the same pay, same position, and your job would not have been gone. We also we've created a whole website just about women empowerment. So we started a website called Asian Money Guide, which looks at women in finance and women finance matters, because the way women look at finance is also a little bit different than the way men look at finance. So we recognize the fact that women and men are different, and we try to give them tools in order to just make them better at their trade. And of course, we set up the company Female Founders, which is a non-profit, because our vision was to try to just raise more funding going to women investors, because having 10 women with more than 10 million in funding is pathetic, and so how do we actually make sure that women are creating companies that VCs want to fund in, and how do we make sure that VCs start having more women in the VC companies, because right now out of the top 100 VCs, only 8% of them have women.
So I think it's really, sorry, Ungku Lisa, I'm just going to go straight to the next question, if that's okay. Yeah. So I think it's really important to put out there as the next steps for everyone. What can, what can CEOs and investors do? What should they change in their organization? What should they implement? Are there any policies to be able to attract, retain more women leaders, talents? What could we advise for them to start looking at as the next course of action?
Okay. I think the first one, if anyone in this room is a CEO or founder of a company that still has gender discrimination somewhere inside you, just put that away, right? View a candidate or a resources as a person. Look at his or her capabilities, and not whether he's a female or she's a he's a male or she's a female, right? Number two, allow flexibility, because whether you like it or not, God has created women somehow having a natural instinct towards being at home, or something that we can still control. There are men who would like to stay at home, but the other one that is outside of our control is about having kids, giving birth, right? So you want to give the flexibility of a new mother to be at home with a kid for a short while and be able to come back to work and pick up, right? I wouldn't want to touch more about that because I'm sure the other panelists would have more advice, but I'm actually intrigued by one of the questions just now. I know time's up, about this. That's two candidates. If one is pregnant and one is not, is it gender bias if I actually, if that person actually picked the other person as opposed to the other, right? I got a job when I was pregnant, twice. Right? And I deliver as best and as better result as any of my male colleague. Whether or not the company can afford a maternity leave, I guess that's the second question. The first question is give the option to that candidate whether you think that candidate is the fair candidate to do the job. Right? And then unfortunately, I can't afford to give you maternity leave. If you can do it on your own cost, then the job is yours. So again, don't make being pregnant a reason why not to hire, because we don't have a choice. I mean, if a man, my husband, can actually give birth, by all means, carry the fetus and scream in a labor room, right? But I don't have that choice. So look at the individual as a person. That's my point. And women, if you really want it, prove it, because anyone, regardless, women or men, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Ungku Lisa. I think that's very important, and it goes both ways. It's for the women and the men to start making the change. So we need to wrap up. There you go. It's very clear that supporting and investing in female-led businesses can create thriving economies, societies, and everyone stands to reap the benefits. But it all starts with each and every one of us to recognize that and drive or participate in gender-aware initiatives to really implement that change. So thank you all for sharing your points of view, your advice that can really help the audience start implementing that change. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, ladies. Ungku Liza, Dr. Jasmine, Roshni, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we say thank you and extend our appreciation to our moderator, Raja Jesrina. Thank you, Jesrina.